Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who is wearing a blue hat and a black shirt. And I'm here to talk about Jesse Butler, pretty much. Credit to Jesse Butler for stepping up on short notice to fight Jim Miller. Say what you will about the opportunity. It's a gigantic opportunity, and there's a lot to be gained, especially if he wins. But nevertheless, it takes a lot of balls to step up on 2 days' notice, go up a weight class, and fight easily the toughest guy you've ever fought. And that's what he's doing here. So credit to Jesse Butler. I'm glad as a diehard Jim Miller fan that I get to see my favorite fighter fight tomorrow night. And I really hope he wins. No offense, Jesse. But can Jesse win? That's what I'm here to talk about. I don't know. I'm picking against him just because of what I've seen. I've seen every Jesse Butler fight I can get my hands on over the last 2 days. And I can't say he presents a unique challenge for Jim Miller, but stylistically, they're similar guys. They're similar fighters. They both insist on being grapplers, but Jim Miller is a much more comfortable striker. Jesse Butler has 2 inches of height and 1 inch of reach, and he's got some good leg kicks. I can't say he's got a good leg kicking game. I think he leaves himself open, to be honest, but it is one of his primary weapons, a nice rangy attack, so it's something I know he can do well, and he should... he could win that leg kicking battle against Jim Miller. But even there, Jim is not like the guys he's fought. Jim is a much more comfortable striker. He's very mobile, protects himself with footwork first and foremost, and he's really agile, good at darting in and out. I think if I've seen some lazy kicks from Jesse Butler, which I have, I think Jim Miller would meet those with some straight lefts right down the pike. And I think Jim Miller is a guy that he's not the most sophisticated striker, but he's seen and done everything. And I think he would win the kickboxing battle against Jesse Butler. Jesse does have one clean knockout as a pro. It's his only TKO victory. He doesn't have any TKOs on the ground. But it was a clean knockout over Masio Fullen, former UFC fighter. Knocked him dead with a left hook at the end of a combo. And it's beautiful. So he does have power, and he's got a few knockouts, at least one that I've seen as an amateur standing. But in general, he's a grappler. That's where he wants to be. You could tell when you watch him fight, he doesn't give a shit if he's on the bottom. He'll just, he'll put himself on the bottom. I've watched him pull one of the guys on top of him into the mount. He didn't give a shit. And I'll tell you, you can take those risks at 145 when you're the better grappler, the better scrambler most of the time. But that's not a risk you can take against Jim Miller. You can't give Jim Miller any opportunities because he is such a dynamic finisher, especially when he's fresh. He's one of the most dangerous submission artists in the entire UFC, especially with that guillotine. So, speaking of which, Jesse Butler was in a very tight guillotine in his last fight against this guy, Luna. The guy Luna hit him in a very tight guillotine. When I watched that, I said, oh shit, if that's Jim, that's over. But credit to Butler. He scrambled out of it, and that's pretty much how he won this fight. He scrambled and, didn't concede top position to his opponent. He did initially, but he kept scratching and clawing, and he won the decision. I thought he won all 3 rounds, but he definitely stole round 3 by scrambling and scratching and clawing till the bitter end, taking his back. And that was very impressive. Because it looked like, I thought he was winning 2 rounds, but it looked like round 3 was starting to get away from him, and he just said no. And before that was the Masio Fullen fight. He is on a 5-fight winning streak. This guy, he's got some momentum. Did I go over his fucking record? I think I did. His 4 losses, he's got 1 knockout and 3 decisions. The 1 knockout was Travis Brown elbows. He was rocked silly, and the guy who beat him is a very physical fighter. He actually beat that guy by split decision as an amateur. Both of the fights are on YouTube. But as a pro, that guy just cracked him with those elbows and got him out of the fight. His other 3 losses are decisions to Michael McDonald, not the former UFC fighter. Levi Moles, very good fighter, beating some good UFC fighters, current fighters. And this guy, Colin Wright, who Sure Dog has it as a 5-round decision, wasn't 5 rounds. He lost a 3-round fight. But still, he's been 5 rounds. I trust his cardio, again, especially with that last fight, when it looked like I was starting to doubt his cardio, and he's just said no. But here, you got to have some cardio doubts about him taking the fight on 2 days' notice. I do think, whatever, it's more than just a wrinkle to this matchup. It's going to be something. But I think the way Jim Miller has lost has been potentially a cardio issue, but really a wrestling battle as well. The majority of his last few fights have that he's lost have been him losing rounds 2 and 3 by not being able to sustain top position. You know, he was in the first round, if not winning the first round, in every one of those fights. Joe Selecki, Vince Pichel, Scott Holtzman, doing well on his feet as well. But then he just fell off a little bit in round 2, started conceding top position, and just kind of ran out of gas to make things happen. You could also say the same about the Alexander Hernandez fight, even though that was a different fight altogether. But in the end, Jim Miller made it a very close fight with a third-round submission attempt, taking his back and really going after with that dynamic submission prowess. So, Jim, you know, he's always going to be dangerous. And against a guy who I can't trust to have a good cardio here, and also a guy that's fighting up a weight class and never was the strongest wrestler at 145, I'm expecting Jim to win this fight. I just think this is a stylistically favorable matchup, and of course, favorable circumstances as well. But Jesse Butler, he's got some nice tools. You know, the leg kicks on the outside, even though they're naked a lot of times, and he's not the most sophisticated striker. It is a potential advantage. He's got hard leg kicks. This one guy, Boswick, he beat him down didn't beat him down really, but it definitely had the most effective strikes with his leg kicks, and then just choked him out in 30 seconds into round 2. But the leg kicks were doing it for him. He's definitely a guy that's got some nice tools, but altogether, with a full camp, I still wouldn't pick him to beat Jim Miller. So I'm not picking him here. Am I betting on him? That's the question. Plus 200? Nah, I'm not betting on him. It's juicy. I, like everybody else, have doubts about Jim Miller just because he's almost 40. You can feel kind of comfortable betting against anybody who's 40 years old. But not here. I just think Jim, the way he's looked as of late, he's going to be too much for this kid. I can't even say Jim's going to put him away. I would expect him to, but I can't say it. Again, the guy's been taken out once as a pro, and it was by Travis Brown elbows. The one loss by submission was as an amateur in one of his first few fights. So, I don't know. But the guy's definitely a competent grappler. I just think Jim Miller's going to have his number. Not betting on it. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.